Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a deep dive into the bizarre, staggering, and honestly entirely hidden realities of the everyday technology that shapes our lives. We tap, swipe, and scroll for hours on end, usually assuming the tech world is this sterile, hyperlogical place born in sleek Silicon Valley garages, right? Well, what if I told you the true history of our favorite gadgets and websites is actually incredibly weird, deeply human, and scaled to a level that is almost impossible to wrap your head around? Let's get into it.
Okay, quick question to start us off. Did you know that Nokia used to sell toilet paper? Seriously, way before they were manufacturing those totally indestructible mobile phones we all remember from the early 2000s, Nokia was busy churning out a completely different range of products. We're talking tires, computers, and yes, actual rolls of toilet paper. It just goes to show that the tech world has been inherently weird right from the very start.
So let's kick things off with Section 1. Weird tech origins, and some truly giant beginnings. It's pretty wild when you look at how some of these modern giants started. Take Samsung, for example. Today, they're an absolute powerhouse of cutting-edge electronics and smartphones. But back in March of 1938, they actually opened their doors as a humble grocery store. They didn't even enter the electronics industry until the 1960s. Now contrast that with YouTube. Today, it's the undisputed king of video streaming, but it was originally registered on February 14, 2005, Valentine's Day, with the express purpose of being a video dating site. It was literally designed for people to upload videos of themselves talking about their dream partners. When no one uploaded anything, they kind of just pivoted to allow any kind of video, and well, the rest is history.
And these bizarre origin facts just keep piling up. Nintendo, they were founded all the way back in 1889 as a playing card company, and didn't touch video games until 1978. Then you have Apple, a company famous for its sleek, minimalist design, right? Well, before the iPhone, they actually patented a flip phone design shaped like a literal physical apple. No joke. And Google, the absolute most recognized name on the internet, was an accident. They meant to register Google, the digit 1 followed by 100 zeros, but someone made a typo, searched for google.com instead, and they just went with it in 1997. Oh, and if you use the Firefox browser, that famous orange creature wrapped around a globe in the logo, it's not actually a fox, it's a red panda.
Moving on to Section 2. Historic tech firsts, because a lot of this stuff is way older than you think.
The deep history of tech is honestly fascinating. Think about the very first photograph, captured by Nicephore Niepce between 1826 and 1827. It took an agonizing 8 hours to expose just due to technical limitations at the time. And fun fact, that 8-hour wait is exactly why people didn't smile in old photographs. You physically couldn't hold a smile for that long. Jump ahead to 1925, and we get the very first television broadcast. It was just a grayscale image scanning at a super choppy 5 frames per second. Fast forward to April 3, 1973, and Martin Cooper of Motorola makes the first ever handheld mobile phone call. And who did he decide to call? Dr. Joel S. Engel at Bell Labs, his direct rival at AT&T, just to spitefully let him know he'd beaten him to it.
Now you might look at this block of binary gibberish and wonder what it is. Well, it was Google's very first tweet back in February 2009. They posted it entirely in binary code. But when you decode those ones and zeros into English, it reveals a brilliant little nod to their search engine. It translates perfectly to, "I'm feeling lucky."
It turns out time itself is pretty heavily manipulated in the tech world too. Have you ever noticed how every single Apple iPhone advertisement has the time set to exactly 9:41? That is because it's the exact time Steve Jobs announced the very first iPhone in 2007. Then there's the QWERTY keyboard you probably type on every single day. It wasn't designed for speed, it was intentionally designed to slow you down. Early typewriters jammed up if you typed too fast, so the most common letters were actually moved far apart. Little trivia for you, typewriter is the longest word you can type using only the top row of keys. But the ultimate time quirk? According to a study by Dr. David Eagleman, our consciousness actually lags 80 milliseconds behind real events. Because of how the human brain processes data, everything you are experiencing right now technically happened in the past.
All right, Section 3, Massive Tech Scale. Prepare yourself for some truly mind-boggling numbers.
Consider this for a second. We have around 7.7 billion people on the planet. Out of that massive global population, more than 6 billion people have access to a mobile phone. Yet only 4.5 billion people have access to a working toilet. Let that sink in. The scale of mobile technology has heavily outpaced access to basic human sanitation.
And what operating systems are actually powering those billions of phones? Well, despite the immense cultural footprint of the iPhone, Android just absolutely dominates globally. In 2019, Android accounted for a massive 87% of the global smartphone market share, leaving Apple's iOS with just 13%.
When you really look at it, the sheer volume of the internet is breathtaking. Every single day sees 3.5 billion Google searches, and hilariously, 7.2% of that traffic is just people searching the word Google. Meanwhile, every single minute, 500 hours of video hit YouTube, and roughly 350,000 tweets are fired off. On top of that, WordPress powers 35% of all websites on Earth, while mega hits like the music video for Despacito amassed over 6.9 billion views by September 2020. Yet, amidst all these billions of high-speed streams and tweets, there is a fascinating paradox here. As recently as 2017, a study found 2.1 million people in rural America were still relying on slow, noisy dial-up internet because modern broadband was just too expensive or unreliable.
But the scale doesn't just stop at data. It completely redefines how we value things. 92%. That is the amount of the world's currency that is entirely digital right now. Between credit cards, online purchases, and cryptocurrencies, physical money, the actual paper and coins you hold in your hand, only makes up 8% of global wealth today.
Which brings us to Section 4, Quirks and Surprises. Let's look at some unexpected collisions.
Here's a fun question for you. Have you ever wondered why Facebook is so heavily undeniably branded in the color blue? You'd think it was the result of some multi-million-dollar psychological marketing study, right? Nope. It's simply because founder Mark Zuckerberg is red-green colorblind. Blue is the color he can see best, so blue just became the default color of one of the largest platforms in human history.
And you know, technology physically alters how we behave too. Normally, we humans blink about 20 times a minute, but when you sit in front of a computer screen, your blink rate plummets to just 7 times a minute. That biological reaction is exactly why your eyes dry out at work. Meanwhile, the massive companies running these screens operate in completely unique ways. If you happen to find a security bug in Facebook's code, they have this bug bounty program that pays anywhere from $500 to a record $50,000 just for pointing it out. And over at Google, every so often, instead of using loud, gas-guzzling lawnmowers, they literally rent 200 goats for a week and let them roam the campus eating the grass. Google claims it costs exactly the same as hiring a landscaping crew.
Get this, 1 in 12.5 million. That is the estimated response rate to a single spam email. Now that sounds like a terrible return on investment, right? Why would anyone even bother? Well, they bother because over 14 billion spam messages are blasted out on a daily basis. At that sheer scale, even a 1 in 12.5 million chance turns into a massively profitable venture.
Speaking of spam, here is some hilarious trivia about that junk mail clogging up your inbox. Spam email actually gets its name from a 1970s Monty Python's Flying Circus sketch. In the sketch, patrons at a restaurant realize that every single dish on the menu contains canned spam meat, and the more they ask about the menu, the more the spam aggressively multiplies until it's literally the only thing left. Early internet users noticed that junk mail took over an inbox exactly the same way spam took over that fictional restaurant menu, and the name stuck. But you know, sometimes it's not spam that overwhelms the internet. It's us. Just us. When Michael Jackson died, the resulting shockwave of human curiosity literally broke the internet. At 3:15 p.m., Twitter, Wikipedia, and AOL Instant Messenger all completely crashed under the immense traffic. The surge of search requests was so massive and sudden that Google actually mistakenly believed their search engine was under a coordinated DDoS attack, prompting them to block searches related to Michael Jackson for a full 30 minutes. But for me, perhaps the absolute most incredible intersection of human unpredictability and tech infrastructure happened back in 2011. Picture this: the highly advanced, subterranean fiber optic infrastructure of the internet met a 75-year-old Georgian woman with a shovel. While she was out scavenging for copper, she accidentally sliced through a single cable, and in doing so, she completely cut off internet access to large portions of both Georgia and Armenia. One person, looking for scrap metal, momentarily brought down the entire information age for 2 whole countries.
So that brings us to a final thought. We've just seen how the absolute grandest technologies can start out as dating sites and playing card companies. We've seen how billions of hours of data are balanced against grazing goats and dial-up modems. And we've seen how the internet can literally be brought to its knees by global warming or just a single misplaced shovel. So, as our technology continues to scale to unimaginable heights, we really have to ask ourselves, What completely unpredictable human element will break, shape, or inspire the next great innovation? Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes open. The tech world is for sure far weirder than you think.